move to take note of the Economics Reference Committee report into the Australian Bureau of Statistics production of inflation statistics. This inquiry was called on a Senate motion that One Nation introduced. And I thank the committee for their time, and I thank the Australian Bureau of Statistics for their honest, direct and professional answers. In an answer to my question in Senate estimates, the Reserve Bank Governor advised it uses many other indicators to get a clearer understanding of the cost of living affecting everyday Australians, not just the CPI. This was the comment that led to last week's inquiry. Many people assume the CPI is an accurate picture of the cost of living for everyday Australians. What we learnt from the ABS, the Australian Bureau of Statistics, is the Consumer Price Index is a macroeconomic indicator useful to the government, Reserve Bank and industry to show how much prices have changed. That's not the same as asking how much cost of living spending has increased for everyday Australians. That cost of living data is trapped using other indexes called selected living cost indexes. These are produced for subsets within the economy based on source of income. The largest group is employees, comprising 15 million current wage and salary earners. This is more than 70% of the Australian adult population. This index shows the actual rate of inflation affecting this largest cohort of the adult population in Australia is actually 6.2%. That feels much more accurate than the official rate, CPI rate, of 3.8%. Even at 6.2%, the figure is not entirely representative. The living cost index for most Australians does not include the insane increases in prices, house prices, as Senator Rennick and myself pointed out in questions. The ABS traps the increase only in building cost, not the increase in land cost. The average home price in Queensland in 2020 was $524,000. And in 2024, it's now $815,000. Most of that inflation is in the land price. Unless home price inflation is included in the living cost index, then Australians are quite honestly being misled, badly misled. Now, the ABS is not misleading. It's producing the statistics the government asked them to produce. So I wonder who decided to use the CPI rate as the official picture of inflation in Australia, because it's wrong. Why don't the media report the living cost index, showing 6.2% inflation affecting most Australians, and that it doesn't represent costs including houses? All except one of these living cost indexes shows a higher rate than the 3.8% CPI. Why is the media misleadingly reporting the lowest figure instead of the real figure covering most Australians? I've been using adult Australians here for a reason. This inquiry confirmed the Australian Bureau of Statistics does not collect data for inflation affecting the cost of raising children. The latest data my office could find was from the Australian Institute of Health and Welfare, which found that it costs $340 a week to provide for 2 children, a girl aged 6 and a boy aged 10. That data was from 2018. We don't know what it is today. There's no time series data, no inflation rate over time for children. Now that seems pretty poor. There are 5.7 million children under 18 here in Australia. It would be useful to know how much the cost of raising those children is increasing. As I travel around Queensland, I hear so many parents saying just how expensive life is becoming, the cost of living under Labor, how expensive raising children is becoming. The failure to provide data to government on the outcome of government policies on the cost of raising children and an accurate figure for the cost of running a family is a massive failure. A failure which rests with the Minister, not the Australian Bureau of Statistics. I call on the government to task the ABS with providing an accurate figure for inflation affecting families. It worries me that it is the figure of 3.8%, not the much more accurate figure of 6.2% that's used for wage increases. According to the OECD's Economic Outlook report, real wages in Australia are now 5% lower than they were in 2020. 5% lower. Remember those house prices I mentioned, up from $524,000 to $815,000 in Queensland in 4 years. After adjusting for inflation, everyday Australians looking to buy their first home are trying to afford that mortgage on 5% less income. No wonder home ownership seems an impossible dream for young wage and salary earners. Wages should reflect the real cost of living under Labor. Government spending and handouts reduced the inflation rate. Yet this money started in the hands of employees who paid that to the government in tax and the government gives it back to people in subsidies, less the government's cut for administration. Is this the much-touted green circular economy? I'll finish with an idea. Reduce the size of government, let people keep more of their own money. If everyday Australians feel you're working harder and going backwards, it's because you are. I seek leave to continue my remarks.
Leave granted.